And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. On today's show, I've asked Joe to be my guest today. Now, Joe is one of these guys, when you become a Lifestyles Unlimited member, that you're probably going to meet. And the reason you're going to probably meet this guy is because this guy is a social animal. This guy loves other people. And in addition to that, he loves helping other people. He's one of the first guys that I met when I became a member of Lifestyles Unlimited over 6 years ago. And other than the fact that he's a fellow veteran like I am, I just drew close to this guy because this guy was more interested in finding out my story than he was sharing his story with me. So that's part of the reason I have him on the radio today is we're going to get inside of Joe's story. We're going to get inside of his mind. We're going to find out things about Joe, and then we can watch him turn beet red when he's listening to the show. But what I want to do now is I just want to bring Joe onto the show so that you can embrace his mind, you can embrace his soul, and you can get into his story because it's a great, great story. So with no further ado, let me welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how you doing today, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Al. Yeah, I'm doing great. I mean, after an intro like that, what do I say? I don't know. You got me stumped for words.
Man, not you. I stumped you? How did that happen?
I have no idea. But it's
man.
great to be here. You did mention a lot of nice things. There's one thing that you did mention that you and I have in common, and that's our veterans. And if I could just plug in real quickly, you know, we have many veterans, but we have many active members serving across the world right now, making sure that we stay protected away from their families during the holidays. Let's just wish them and keep them safe in our minds.
See, everybody, I told you, he's more interested in other people. He's more interested in helping other people. That's the Joe that I know. Man, I knew this was going to come out. So, Joe, let's get into your backstory. Now, we know you're a Lifestyles Unlimited member, and,
Yes.
you know, obviously, or you wouldn't be on the show. But having said that, there was a time in your life where Lifestyles Unlimited was not involved. What were you doing for a living at that time? What were you doing for retirement at that time?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So Lifestyles began for me officially in March of 2016. Prior to that, it was a bunch of these radio segments that I would catch, and somehow I just caught the. You know, I was on every Sunday morning that I caught it on the radio, and I was in the car for about 10 minutes getting ready to wash the car or here, you know, or to the grocery store or whatever. And I never listened to a full show. I'm going to rewind and take us back into the early 90s, late 80s for a moment. I first got excited about real estate in about 1989, 1990 when I met a really good friend of mine. And we had a lot of similar ideas, and we saw retirement being something that most people at that age didn't think about. And so we started driving hard. My focus was more along the stock market. His moved and migrated into real estate, and he took off as an early 20-year-old and did really good. You'd think I'd follow his path with all that examples right there in front of me. But I let this thing called fear get in the way, and I know you talk about that quite often. I remained in fear for about 20 years. It wasn't until about 2012 when I mentioned something in front of a friend of mine who's a realtor, and he says, I can sell you a fourplex right now. And the rest was history. But what I did over those 20 years is I read every book, and I got excited about just what potential of real estate. I just couldn't get past that fear. And, you know, all of a sudden I got thrown into this fourplex. And, you know, it's hard to mess up real estate because when I sold a few years later, I had tripled my money, my investment at least. I think I did more than that with the cash flow. But I had cash flow. And that changed things. That helped make small payments of bills that I had throughout the month and carried over month to month. But I still didn't really grasp what it could potentially do for me. In about 2015, I remember walking my dog one night, and I said, you know what, I caught this show. There's got to be something out there. Sure enough, you know, I'm sitting here on a street corner at, 9 o'clock at night, and I find these podcasts, and I start listening to podcasts every day, some of them multiple times, all these Del Walmsley on the radio show, whatnot, like we're doing today. And I just connected with so many people. And I said, you know what, I'm really ready to join this organization. And I went to the 2-day. Actually, I went to case study first, which is on Thursdays before to the 2-day. And then I went to the 2-day, and I sat there for 2 days knowing a lot of the information, learned a lot of information, but I was just ready to join at the end of the 2-day, which I did. And the rest is history.
So the big turning point for you was finding out that there was a better way to do real estate. And the podcast obviously convinced you of it, convinced you enough that you checked out one of our case studies. By the way, for the listening audience, our case studies are events that we throw. We call it monthly, but it seems like we do it like every week now that we've gone to this, internet-based forum. But the neat thing about case study is that we have our members educating other members. It's not me standing up there. It's not Del Walmsley standing up there. It's members like you that are telling the story of what they have accomplished with real estate. And I'm guessing that got you hooked.
Oh, absolutely. What got me really hooked was I had been to some of these other seminars in the hotel lobbies and whatnot. And what I enjoyed the most about Lifestyles, and I'm pretty sure they're the first company that I'm aware of that has a physical presence in most of the cities, the bigger cities in Texas anyway. And it was a place that I could go to when I wanted to connect with people, to see things. It wasn't somebody coming through and just going through the hotel circuit and trying to sell you something and then working over an 800 number.
So, Joe, what is it that you do that you love so much that you don't want to sit around like I do day in and day out?
Well, I've worked for a company that supports the military. I've been here for almost 24 years. But the main thing, to answer your question, is I have fun. When you get to support America's finest and their families and make sure they're safe and covered for the things they need to be covered in financially, there's nothing that warms my heart better than that. I help people get from where they are to where they want to go. And I think the beautiful thing that matched up is the core values of the company and my core values. It made it a nice match. And they let me do that every day, have fun, and help people get from where they are to where they want to go.
But you're still in control of your life. So, I mean, if you went to work tomorrow and you decided you weren't having fun anymore, you could walk away and you wouldn't be financially devastated, would you?
Yeah, a little different from the plan than when I started prior to finding Lifestyles. My plan then was to amass a couple $1 million and save and not do the fun things in life for the 40 years so that I could continue life that I probably would have lived all these years without all the fun and excitement and maintained some sort of lifestyle. When I found Lifestyles and opened into real estate, it blew my mind on how fast things could change. I mean, I literally went to the case study. You hear these wonderful stories. And then I went to the 2-day, and I learned day 1 is about single-family investing, and day 2 is about multifamily investing, which was more to my speed because I am what we refer to as a passive investor in multifamily real estate. And I know you'll talk about that here in a minute. But when I realized I could continue doing what I was doing right now, at least having fun that I do, and let somebody else make the returns that we were seeing in the market, it changed my lifestyle completely because now I watch my net worth not multiply by 1 or 2 times, but in a very short period of time, it was 3 times. And before I knew it, it was on its way to 4 times what I started with. And I was working towards a plan that was going to get me somewhere by the age of 62. I reached that level about 2 years ago when I turned about 52. So about 10 years ahead of schedule, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is an amazing result. So I'm guessing the big aha moment you had when you went through the 2-day financial freedom education was the fact that a guy like you could invest in multifamily real estate. Because I'll tell you, when I went through the 2-day, I absolutely thought that it was all going to be single family focused. I really did. I had no idea that a guy like me could invest in multifamily. Am I even close to the truth?
For you, I mean, of course it's the truth. For me, it was a little bit different. Going back to what I told you about when I started listening to that radio show or the podcast in 2015, I think it was about late October. I heard so many podcasts, and I heard about this passive investor and a lead investor and all these terms that we refer to within Lifestyles. And I knew that the schedule that I was working and the things that I was doing, the projects that I was being assigned that I enjoyed, I didn't have the time to go run a big operation. But if I could hand my money over to someone who I trusted and match their business, not only ethics, but also business mindset, to get me the returns that I knew were possible and learning what was even more possible, I was all for that. And that's exactly why I did that. So I had listened to so many podcasts that I knew that the passive investing is where I wanted to go. I had to prove to myself a couple of years after I joined that I actually had time, because I made an excuse for many years that I didn't have enough time working, as a leader in an organization, average 45, 50, sometimes 55 hours a week. I had to prove to myself that that was an excuse. And so I was sitting at a 2-day. I went back multiple times just to learn more and keep myself knowledgeable and busy. And I got this broadcast. There's a single family, and so I put my name in the hat, and all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, I've got 2 properties that I had no idea that I was going to be moving towards. I didn't even know I was going to do one, but that was a very pivotal moment for me. It was in 2018 in June, and all of a sudden, I am project leading with all the contractors and everything that Lifestyles gave me the education for. And I've got 2 properties that are completed by the end of August. We're refinanced into conventional loans, and I've got tenants in them. We refer to them as family members, and they are helping me with the lifestyle. But what I did the most at that point was prove to myself that it was just an excuse. If I wanted it and it was big enough, that I would go for it, and I did.
So you had that mindset that real estate was like taking on an additional 40-hour-a-week job, right?
Yeah, I've actually probably more than 40 hours, because you get all these calls in the middle of the night and all kinds of things, the stories. You only hear this. It's like the Vegas, right? You only hear the people that win. What I was hearing is only all the problems. And it's like, well, wait a minute. It can't always be problems. Not if you're fixing it up and not if you're doing it right. And sure enough, that was a myth that I busted. And it did not take anywhere near 40 hours.
So in addition to those single-family assets, how many apartment communities are you invested in right now?
Oh, that's a good question, because they're moving. I know that sounds crazy that I don't know the answer to that.
You're so passive. I love it, man. You don't even know the answer. That's great. That is awesome.
I will say this, probably, and this is another number that just blows my mind. But since I became a member in 2016, I have probably entered and exited, the full cycle of what we call real estate investing, over 30 properties. And that was not even on my radar. I couldn't even say over 30 properties when I first started. I heard other people talking about it, and I didn't know how it's possible. But you watch and you follow the model that Dell has set forth for us, and that's what so many people do, and it just makes so much sense. And then the rest is history.
Do you worry about income?
No, not at all. I think one of the things that I love my parents for is we were a middle class family growing up. I learned to be effective and budgetary with my money and responsible. And so, any of us could at any time go crazy. And I've got more credit lines than I could really ever use unless I wanted to just go rogue. But I just keep the same fundamentals that I learned growing up. And now I do order, if I go to a nice restaurant, I want the experience to be memorable. And so I get what I want. Not, hey, I went to this restaurant, but I had to get, the chopped beef. And so I don't do that every time, but I do that occasionally. I reward myself, and I enjoy life. And, it's a good place that I'm in my life right now, and I'm very happy and excited.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you've arrived at the place that you've probably always desired to be at in your life. And from my personal experience, I know exactly what you're talking about, because once my passive income exceeded what I was making at my job, I knew that I was in control, and you are completely in control of your life. We come back from the break. We're going to talk to him about his addiction. Stick around.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
What would you say to women out there, Kelly, if they're thinking about doing this, if they're sitting out there right now going, I'm trapped with a glass ceiling where I work, I know I can't go up any further, there's no room there. What would you say to them about becoming their own boss?
Well, you can decide to stay where you're at and keep trying to crack that glass ceiling. But at the end of the day, in this environment, it is so easy, to be able to get out of that mold. People know me and they come up to me and they're very gracious, and they don't look at me and say, oh, you're a woman, I'm not going to invest with you, I'm going to go over here. There's no real gender there.
Are you ready to be part of a world where there are no glass ceilings, no gender bias, no limits? Start like award-winning real estate investor Kelly did with the online free workshop. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second half of the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon. I'm joined by Joe, and together we are working on your financial freedom. Now, I just noticed during the break, I was talking to Joe and I was talking to Rick, my producer, and they both kind of mentioned that I sounded a little bit nasally. So maybe I just need to come clean with y'all and let you know what's going on. I recently had shoulder surgery, and I'm doing radio today, not because I have to, but because I love to. And Joe was scheduled to be my guest, and there was no way in the world I was going to pass up an opportunity to speak with Joe. So pardon my voice. I apologize for the nasally sound. I'm actually doing really good. And what I want to get into is I want to get into the topic of addiction. Now, I don't mean addiction in the bad way, like, addiction to opioids or addiction to alcohol or addiction to, sex or anything like that. What I want to talk about is the good side of addiction. And Joe, I know you're an addict, so come clean and tell us the addiction that you are experiencing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I hope you're healing okay. Thank you for being here. I would have not noticed you're nasally. I'm nasally too, but that's because of Cedar in San Antonio. So,
well, maybe that's what it is.
It's good to be here either way. I like to cruise. I like to cruise a lot, and it's something that I first did about 20 years ago, and I did it a few times since. Most out of Galveston. I've been out of Spain, and I've been out of Florida a few times, and it's just something that. I think the thing I like most about cruising is you get to unpack once, you get to meet all kinds of new people, but the biggest thing is I get to disconnect. I get to separate. I don't get the internet package or anything like that. I just separate and vacate.
So how often do you get the opportunity to do this? Because I know you still retain that full-time job, and you're still a real estate investor. So how many times a year do you get the opportunity to go out and enjoy cruising?
So here more recently, just in 2023, have done it twice already. I'm going to be doing it. Actually, we're scheduled for a third one. Actually, right now we got 2 more on the books for next year, maybe 3. So parents are turning milestone birthdays, and we're trying to get things on the calendar just to go do the one-off things they enjoy cruising. I want to help them get there so they don't have to worry about, not getting on a flight or falling or getting in an accident. So, and get them and let them do what they enjoy the most, and that's cruising as well. So I get to cruise with my parents, which is really, really amazing.
That is very cool. I mean, you get the opportunity to connect with them. You get on a boat with them. So, I mean, they're kind of a captive audience. You get to hang out with them unless they go lock themselves in their cabin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's one of the things that, years ago, my cousin lost his father at a very young age. I've had numerous friends lose their parents at a very young age. And that was one thing that always stood in the front of my mind is, we love our families, we love our parents. And I just said, you know what, let's do things with them before it's too late, because I heard them wishing that they had. And so that's just one thing that I've always done with them. So all of my cruises have been with my parents, which I thoroughly enjoy. And great company, and it's a great big cruise ship. If you've never been, it's amazing because it's so big. I mean, you see people if you want to, and you don't have to if you don't. But it's just a nice getaway. So I've always enjoyed it. Something that I enjoy really, with all the Cedar stuff. I really want to do what they call a back-to-back, or there's even back-to-back-to-back cruises. You can stay on a ship for a number of days and really just enjoy life.
Yeah, the last cruise that I went on, I actually met somebody who was doing that. They were kind of like full-time cruisers. So they got off the ship when we got off the ship. Now, Tina and I, we were obviously waiting for our cab to go get our car, but they were just waiting around to reboard the ship. So I was amazed that opportunity's out there, and that's something that you're exploring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's one I like finding these little segments. I want to go do Alaska. And I can stay on the same ship and after Alaska go all the way down the coast of California, and then from California go all the way through the Panama Canal and end up somewhere in Florida. And it turns out to be about a 22-day cruise. And you know what? That's not bad.
Now, there's a cruise coming up in 2024 that you're kind of planning that you let me know about. You let other Lifestyles Unlimited members know about. Tell me a little bit about what's going on with that particular cruise.
You know, it's funny because if you've heard Dell long enough, you've heard it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. And it took me a while to really understand what he meant by that. And I love cruising, and we have so many members that want to travel or they want to do more, they want to try new things. And a few members, it started out with a couple members saying, hey, you like cruising? Could you share some tips, or could you tell us how to do it? Or better yet, could you put one together and we'll go with you? And I said, okay. And then all of a sudden it started growing and growing and growing. And now we have I don't know how many cabins we had last I checked. It's over, I think it's 15 or maybe even 20 by now. But next October, we're going on a cruise out of Galveston. All Lifestyles members are invited. And we're going to live the life that Dell talks about. It's the lifestyle. And that's kind of what I've termed the name of it. It's the lifestyle cruise, because that's what we work for. That's what we invest our money for, is we want to create that passive income to give us the lifestyle that we want. And I'm excited to be leading it, to share my knowledge. And I can't wait to go have so much fun with so many of the people that I call family.
Now, the thing we haven't disclosed about Joe is that he knows a little bit about something called insurance. Joe, let me turn the insurance bit over to you because you know a whole lot more.
Insurance in its simplest terms is the transfer of risk. And so just like as an investor and leveraging money, this is the reverse of that, or the inverse of that, is I'm transferring how much do I want to keep and how much do I want somebody else to help me get my property back into its current condition if something happens. Liability, right? I often tell people you don't have to be a millionaire to be sued like a millionaire. Yet most people choose to retain that risk 100%. I was at the 2-day this past weekend with a great group of people, and Greg was doing a phenomenal job sharing his experience, and he talked about a tornado coming through one of his multifamily properties. Because what happens is, if you experience a loss, what that insurance company is going to do with that dwelling coverage is they're going to come and remediate or remove all of that material that you have that was damaged, haul it away, and then rebuild to current code. So if you had aluminum wiring in an older home and that was severely damaged and covered, then you're going to get rewiring, but they can't rewire with aluminum. They're going to rewire with copper, right? So code has changed.
What about things like umbrella policies? Should people learn about those?
You don't have to be a millionaire to be sued like a millionaire. All you have to do is have income. If you have income and there's an accident, right, something that we did not foresee happening, and some sort of damage is created, then yeah, you need something, because I've seen court cases, and I invite everybody to go out there and research these decisions that have been made in our courts. $200,000, $300,000 liability, medical bills and whatnot. And the judgment's gone for the plaintiff, and there's a judge that determines how much of your income you're going to keep and how much you're going to pay back the other party until it's paid back. So for me, it's worth it. Like I said, it's a transfer of risk, and I'm willing to transfer that risk to somebody else for the premium that they charge me.
So let me jump back to the personal side. I know I'm all over the map, and I apologize for that. But on the personal side, how much insurance should I have? Should I have enough insurance to cover my net worth? Should I have more than that? Should I have less? What's a gauge for that?
Net worth is probably a good start, or maybe just rationalizing what. Sometimes I have the argument with myself. Well, sometimes these people might just come after you, and maybe they just wanted a little extra money and they'll go away. So, maybe if we're talking umbrella, right, maybe just $1 million, because keep in mind, if someone comes over to my house, I have liability coverage on my home, on my personal home. I have liability coverage on my rental units. I have liability coverage on my auto, right? The umbrella is creating a shell on top of all of those, right? So let's say, for example, I have $300,000 on my auto coverage and I have $1 million umbrella policy. Technically combined, I have 1.3 if something were to happen in the auto world of an accident where I'm held liable for any type of damages. So will most people go away with just a big settlement? Maybe. Do I need a bigger one in case something really crazy happens? Possibly. It just depends, right? Every situation is different, but I would definitely talk with a licensed professional to figure out what's best for you and make that decision.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. I mean, I think the one thing that I learned as an educated or sophisticated real estate investor is to make sure that you have the right amount of insurance, because really it's there to protect you. You don't want to get damaged and restart. I mean, is that a fair statement?
I couldn't have said it perfectly. I mean, better than that. It was awesome.
Now, let me just disclose to the audience that you also, in your spare time, you act as an ambassador for Lifestyles Unlimited. What exactly does that mean? We started this show talking about how I enjoy helping others. It was just who I am and what I did, and I would go to the 2 days frequently, because when you're a member, you can go as often as you want. And I was just trying to soak up all this information like a sponge. It was good information. And I guess just because I was around so many people so often, one day I was invited to become what Lifestyles refers to as an ambassador. And I was honored and excited, and then trying to figure out exactly what am I supposed to do. And they said, just keep doing what you're already doing. So what I would do back when I first started this program is when I was going for myself, those presenting noticed that I was frequent flyers for the program, and they knew I was already investing, and they knew I was already, living towards the goals that I was working towards. And so they asked me if I'd share my story with the group that was there, and I did. And I started doing that every time I'd go to the 2-day, and now I do that not only at the 2-day, but I'm in a directory where any member in the country can access me. Access. That is a very, very important component of what we do at Lifestyles Unlimited. Look, if you want to do what Joe's doing, you want to do what I'm doing, you want to do what the 50,000 members of Lifestyles Unlimited are doing, go to lifestylesunlimited.com, sign up for that free workshop, and let's get you going.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.